Hello, I'm Sarah Webb,
And I'm Michelle Cook.
and we're from Purple Parenting. And today we've just got a short video that will go through some very basic tips now that we are in lockdown and continue to be in lockdown, is how to remain sane.
Number one, set routines. At the moment, the world feels pretty different and very strange. So it's important that routines are there to help your children to really feel safe and secure so that some things remain the same. It gives them a chance to predict what's going to happen next. So it feels like they have a bit more control in a time that can be really chaotic for them. Um, Routines also give your child and you something to focus on. So rather than always that maybe getting kind of lost in everything that's happening, it means that you've got a structure to the day. Be careful not to schedule every minute of the day though, because that can put a lot of pressure on you and on your child. If you find that your children are really battling against what you're asking them to do, then I would step out of that and think about how you can bring a bit more fun and a bit more normality into their day.
So number two is to talk with your child. So you know your child better than anyone else, what they understand, how they process language and information. So make sure that the language that you do use with them is really simple and age appropriate. What an older child will understand is very different to what a younger child will understand. Answer any concerns that they have honestly and calmly, even though you may not be feeling that calm yourself. Think about the language that you use with your child. Words such as panic, frightened, scared can all be quite alarmist. So think about using words such as concerning, and it's much easier for them to understand that. Not all children want to talk about it, so answer the questions that do come up honestly, but don't overload your child with too much language or too much information, because actually that can be counterproductive as well.
Number three, recognize and support emotions. So recognize and acknowledge your children's feelings. Let them know that this time will pass and that actually what they're feeling is pretty normal, that, you know, that uncertainty and that being worried about things is very normal at the moment. So it isn't easy, I know that, particularly when we can be feeling stressed and when we really want the answers and we don't know what's going to be happening. But by modeling that actually there isn't always a definite answer straight away and that that's okay, we can work with that, it kind of steers us clear of making promises and statements that might not happen. And finally, think about using things like mindfulness. There's some fantastic apps out there. There's some great things online like cosmic yoga and things that you can do with your children. And what that does is it's a great way of bringing your children back into the present, and for yourself as well, actually. If you're finding that your mind is constantly focusing on the future and that unknown and not feeling like in control of what's happening, by really bringing that back and just focusing on what's happening in the moment can really help. Right, a couple of techniques that we really like to do with younger children is one, superhero stretches, and the other is using spidey senses. So with the superhero stretches, what you're doing is you're getting them to really focus on their body and what their body's doing. So, for example, you could be Superman, so you could be flying off into the distance. And you're getting them to really stretch out and think about how their body's working. The other one is you could be Wonder Woman, perhaps, and, you know, be really forceful and get them to tense up those muscles so that they're really strong. And that can really help them to relax and focus on the moment rather than any worries or anxiety they have. Another really lovely thing to focus on is to do spidey senses. So in a calm space, again, using a soft voice, ask your children to turn on their spidey senses. So, you know, what can they smell? What can they hear? What can they see? What can they touch? And what can they taste? So really get them to explore their senses as you just sit together.
So number four is finding ways to socialise, which I know loads of people have done in lots and lots of different ways. But as the lockdown continues, we do know that the countries that are now starting to come out of lockdown are asking children what it felt like. And one of the major issues that's being raised by children is that they report that they felt lonely. Now, that loneliness doesn't necessarily mean that they were completely on their own, but what it seems to relate to is that they really, really miss their friends. So it's important to acknowledge how hard children are finding that, show them that empathy, and reflect that you find it hard as well, that you are missing your friends and your family too. And just remember that hugs go an awful long way. The other thing is to find ways in which they can socialise. We've all been really, really good at sort of going online and doing sort of video calls and all that sort of thing. And it's really important to build that into your day alongside the exercise and the homeschooling and any other activities that you've put in there. It will help them maintain those friendships and will really give them that understanding that they're not going through this on their own, that other children, other families, and other people in different countries are also going through this. It is a global experience. So it'll help them to understand that they're not alone in this and what is going on.
Number 5 is be kind to yourself. It's a really difficult time at the moment, and nobody's had to experience this before, so everything is very strange. Make sure that you are kind to yourself and that you're realistic. Try and carve some time out of every day where you're just doing something that's for you. If that means your children need a bit more screen time, that's absolutely fine. Also, try not to focus too much on what's going on in the news and what's happening in social media. And please don't beat yourself up if you're not making bread or learning experimental jazz or how to make yogurt. Do what you need to do to get you and your family through this in a way that works for you.